Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is OSU Football Update with Jeremie Poplin.
Hey everybody, welcome in another Oklahoma's own sports podcast here, courtesy of Griffin Media. My name is Jeremie Poplin. Joining us today is Zachary Lancaster. You know him, you love him. PokesReport.com. I'll let him fill you in on all the different radio responsibilities he has because my man feels like he has about 8 jobs. And who doesn't during this busy time of the year? Following the portal is a full-time job in its own right. Zach knows more than anyone when it comes to Oklahoma State and the amount of players that they have that they are picking up out of the portal. But let's face it, a lot of faces and names to replace with all the players that left last year's Oklahoma State squad. Zach, what's up, man? I know this is a very busy time for you. You're getting ready for the radio show as well. But, man, I appreciate you doing this on what is already another crazy day in Portal Land for the Pokes.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. We just got done with the basketball availability, which was the first time I've had a chance to breathe in about, 5 days? I guess is what that was. And today was pretty crazy. And I think a lot of people expected a bunch of commitments over the next 2 to 3 days, and they got started late last night, and then they've had 3 today so far. I believe the number, 29? Ironically enough, the same time you and I have been bossed in the last week. So
yes.
So it's been crazy, and I got news for Oklahoma State fans. I got news for college football fans. It's going to continue to be crazy for a while.
So let's dive into the 3 guys that they got today, since we're on top of this. And I feel like by the time we get done, right, we could have 4 or 5 other guys that have signed. You just never know, given this cycle and this short window in the 2-week period here. 3 players today. All Power 4 guys that they brought in, and from what I gather, some excitement around all 3 with some pretty big name value outside of the North Texas players that have committed. So let's start with the 3 they got today.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation just about every single time they land a prospect, because I think I exclusively cover Oklahoma State, so I don't know if this is the thought process with any other program, but it's almost like you have half the fan base that's excited for any player that gets added out of the portal. It's, he wanted to be with Oklahoma State. He wanted to be a Cowboy. And then the other half, you got, they're not P4. They're only Group of 5. They're only Group of 5. These guys are P4 players. It'll be really interesting to see just how they translate and how they're gonna perform, and I think you can use with the P4 players they've added today. I think you can have the exact same conversation that you're having with the Group of 5 guys. So I don't want to go numerically. I'll start with the receiver, because that's the one I think a lot of people are most excited about. You got Justin Bowick, who transferred from Illinois by the way of Ball State, by the way of Eastern Illinois. So another 4-school kind of a guy. This past year, 22 receptions, 265 yards, 5 touchdowns. So not explosive, but what they were looking for is they were looking for speed on the outside, and they were looking for size. 6'4", 215, 220, 210, somewhere in that range. A guy that has played at multiple levels. But you go back to when he was at Ball State, he had 20 receptions, 383 yards, 3 touchdowns, and pretty similar numbers at Eastern Illinois. So, and I think, ironically enough, as we're talking, I just got a Twitter notification, and I think they landed another prospect out of the transfer portal. 2:28 p.m. on Thursday. I'll pull up my notifications while we're talking, but. Yeah, it's really fast and furious, and when you talk about guys and whether or not they're going to translate to this level, I kind of got into it. And you talk about radio duties. I host a radio show in Stillwater on Triple Play Sports Radio from 3 to 5 Monday through Friday, and one of the things that we got into yesterday, and I kind of got on a little bit of a heater. And I had a couple of people call me after the show was over, and they're like, "Man, you kind of went off a little bit." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I've heard a lot of people that have talked about, oh my God, I mean, Eric Morris, they're bringing nothing but North Texas players. They're bringing nothing but G5 players." And when you look at Tulsa, Tulsa has P4 players on that roster. They are a very good football team. Just ask Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. Look at North Texas. And then look at Oklahoma State. And I don't want this to be disrespectful. Oklahoma State's a P4 program. I grew up an OSU fan. I'm very blessed and privileged to be on this beat and cover this team. Oklahoma State was 1-11 with P4 players last year. They have not won a Big 12 game since before the Big 12 title game in 2023. All right? I would much rather have a coaching staff go out and cherry pick the best group of 5 players from a roster. And that sounds hateful. I don't think you should just, pick and choose from group of 5 teams. But if Eric Morris is going to bring the best players from North Texas, I would rather have the best group of 5 players than a bunch of backup role player P4 players that are not a proven commodity. Do I think that Drew Mestemaker is going to win the Heisman Trophy this year? I'm not saying that. But he threw for over 4,000 yards. I'd rather have a 4,000-yard passer than a guy that was a 4-star out of high school that's never played.
So I'm with you. I can speak to this a little bit because my other role is obviously with University of Tulsa football as a sideline reporter. I live in the G5 world every weekend. Maybe I view things and I try to stick up for the G5 and G6s of the world as much as possible. But here's one thing that I don't really know why people haven't come around on this yet, Zach, and that is, what have we learned from the portal?
Yep.
There's good football players at every level in this country. It doesn't matter if it's FCS. It doesn't matter if it's coming out of the American. It doesn't matter if it's in the Sun Belt. It doesn't matter if it's D3. There are good players for one reason or another that end up at these programs, and I do not want to cast a blanket over all of them and throw them into the same category as to why they're at these schools. Newsflash, not everyone gets an opportunity to play at a Power 4 school. So the portal has opened up the ability for these players to come and prove themselves. Now, has it happened every step of the way? No, it hasn't. It's never going to, by the way. You're going to have people that just don't live up to expectations or fit the bill that schools are looking for. But, man, the last couple of years, haven't we seen guys that have elevated up from the lower levels? There's one that's playing as a starting quarterback tonight that was at Ferris State, who, by the way, is an awesome program, who has the ability to lead his team to a national championship. I've seen a number of players at Tulsa do it. The other example is a game that will be played tomorrow night with Indiana, whose out there roster is JMU players. Yep. But it's about evaluating talent. It's not about lifting up, because I heard the same argument on a different radio show, not yours, yesterday driving home. And I wanted to punch the dash because their first comment was, it's too many North Texas players. Buddy, they're replacing 60-plus players on a roster, right? You have to have backfill in some of these places. But if the guys that have been around them, that brought them to that program, that have extensive experience with them, have evaluated them, and feel like that they can play at the Power 4 level with Oklahoma State, whether that's a starting position or not, then you have to trust the people that you hire. So I'm completely with you. I'm on your side because people just get enamored with that little number 4 that's next to the letter P. And I'm here to tell you that it matters. It doesn't matter as much as you think that it does, as long as the system and the coach is the right fit for them.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, again, honestly enough, Trinidad is the example I use. And I very distinctly say I'm not comparing Drew Mestemaker to a quarterback who's going to make a lot of money in the NFL, who's in the semifinal of the CFP. I don't think Drew Mestemaker is going to replicate that. But Trinidad came from a level below Drew Mestemaker. Yeah. And I'm not going to compare the two here, but if you look at what Eric Morris did at his first head coaching job in Incarnate Word, he took a no-name, no-star Cam Ward and turned him into the number 1 overall pick in the NFL. I think it's one of the more disrespectful conversations in college football to well, they're only North Texas. Oh, they're only Tulsa. North Texas was pretty darn good this year. And do I think that they're going to come in? And I always caveat it one more time. I don't think Oklahoma State is going to win the Big 12 next year. I'm not predicting Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. But if you're adding a 4,000-plus yard passer who led the nation, you're adding a top 5 running back in the nation, you're adding a top 10 wide receiver in the nation, you're adding the number 1 tackler from that North Texas defense, you're adding some good offensive linemen, and then you supplement with P4 players. You supplement with other really good G5 players, you're going to have success in your system. And another thing with this group of five, and I think, what Tulsa has done with, first of all, I think the Portal House is one of the cooler storylines in college football.
Fun.
But I grew up in Creek County, so I'm a 918 kid at heart, and I love what Tulsa's doing with 918 kids. A lot of those kids were either overlooked or guys that got buried in a depth chart. And you look at group of five teams now. A lot of kids that are going G5 are kids that are incredible P4 talents, but because the transfer portal is so prevalent, they're not going to go. Like Caleb Hawkins is a P4 running back. What he did as a true freshman was insane, but because he went to North Rock Creek outside of Shawnee, he was a do-it-all guy for Shawnee. A lot of P4 schools said, I don't know. I just don't think he can do it. So he's going to go to a North Texas. And if Eric Morris had never left, Caleb Hawkins would have gotten a ton of money to go somewhere else. So there's a lot of really good football players at G5 schools. Now, with all of that being said, I don't want this to come across as disrespectful. I don't believe that you could take the entirety of the North Texas team, pick it up, put it in the Big 12, and it be successful. But I also believe that, and while I feel bad for Neil Brown and I don't advocate for this, if Eric Morris can take as many kids from North Texas as he can, he should do it, because you have 60-plus roster spots that you're going to have to fill. And it's a weird world we're living in. I don't think it's going to get any better. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But it is what it is, and I can't stand the conversations that some of these people have, and it goes back to, well, P4 G5. Oklahoma State has been one of the worst P4 schools in 2 years. I would gladly take the best G5 players than what more than half the players that I've watched in the last 2 years.
The best overall point is the total number, right? Is the 60 plus, right? It's year one of a part of a process. Yeah. And I know there have been some examples that have kind of spoiled it with rags to riches. Signetti is one of those in year one. By the way, no one really knows. No one knows. We don't know. We don't know what the product will be by the time they roll out on the field over at TU with Oklahoma State, opening up against the Golden Hurricane. But I can tell you this, is that you probably know this as well as anyone. Eric Morris in the future, year 2, year 3, however long he's at Oklahoma State, it's not going to be the exact same scenario that it was this year. They needed to completely clean house and move forward. You have to backfill your roster with some guys. And you're right. They're not telling the whole North Texas team, hey, come north, young men. No, they're picking the cream of the crop. It's not like it's open invitation. Hey, anybody who wants to come on. No, that's not the way that this thing works by any means. So they've done what I think has been an incredible job so far. I think the recruiting numbers, or the portal number as far as rankings are concerned, I think shows the job that they've done. We've rambled on a bunch, but can you highlight some of the dudes? I think that outside of the Mestamakers of the world and Hawkins, obviously, are there a few names that you're like, all right, let's go, that are there, that are joining this bunch?
Yeah, they kind of get lost in the mix a little bit. One guy that I'm very interested to see, and I don't. It's because he grew up in Oklahoma and he was at Oklahoma State camps, but it's Jacob Sexton, offensive lineman from Edmond, Deer Creek, spent most of his career at Oklahoma, dealt a bad hand, had a lot of injuries, but when he's healthy, he's a very, very good wide receiver. I was looking at Israel Polk. He's a very good offensive lineman. You look at a guy like Israel Polk, a transfer from Akron, put up some good numbers. I'm trying to. There's one guy in particular that I'm having to scroll through my list that I can try to find. It's a wide receiver out of North Texas, Miles Coleman. I don't know if you've watched any tape on Miles Coleman. Oh my God,
he's one of my favorite guys that they picked up, and I'm so happy that you brought him up, because he gets lost in the shuffle with the other ones. That dude was a stud and balled out in the last chance that we got to see him in a game that was counting in the American Championship game.
Yeah, he's the one that when I look at, I say, okay, he's smaller. He fits that slot role. He is so incredibly fast. The first highlight video I watched of him was when North Texas went to Lubbock and played Texas Tech, and he was working his way through that defense like you would have thought that he was the P4 player on that roster. He was just so fast. You look at what he did as a freshman, 11 games, he had 36 receptions, 378 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Really solid. And in that same article, we got to a point early on where we kind of just doubled up because there were so many commitments. In that article is a safety out of North Texas. And I think that when you look at a guy like Quinton Hammons, safety out of North Texas, very, very solid, 6'1", 6'2", about 220 pounds, 53 total tackles, bit of a ball hawk, good hands. He's a guy that when you throw him back there, 53 tackles, but you've got 5 tackles for loss, you got a sack, you got 2 picks, 3 pass breakups, a forced fumble. True freshman, he played all 13 games in that year, 52 tackles, a numbers guy. And I think that's one of the more impressive storylines, I guess, and not necessarily with Hammonds, but he plays into that in the sense that there's a lot of youth coming from North Texas. You have a lot of guys, like if you look at Mestamaker, he is the big guy. When everyone thinks Oklahoma State, they think North Texas. Oh my God, Drew Mestamaker, 2 years, $7-ish million. He's the guy. It's so insane because but I kind of look at him as the underdog almost, because he was a JV quarterback at Vandegrift, and you can't tell me that the Vandegrift coaches didn't, they just don't know football. It's a guy that never started varsity in high school, was a walk-on his freshman year, and then as a redshirt freshman shows up and all of a sudden one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, slinging it around. You got a guy like Caleb Hawkins in the backfield. You got a guy like Wyatt Young. You got a Miles Coleman. I'm so excited to see what this group can do in the Big 12, because when you look at what Eric Morris is all about, you look at that Mike Leach offense, you look at that Dana Holgerson style offense, that's what Eric Morris has. That's what Oklahoma State ran for so long. Now, I don't necessarily know if I'm itching to get back to the 550 yards of total offense while giving up 475 to 500 yards of offense on the other side of the ball. But what Eric Morris did at North Texas and the players that he's bringing in, they're still, I think they're up to 29 out of the portal. You're bringing back, let's lowball it. You're bringing back 25, and you're going to bring in roughly 20 to 25 high school kids. So you still have 25 to 30-ish spots that you're going to have to fill. Yeah. I think that year one, if Oklahoma State can go out and have 5 wins, 6 wins, and that's the ceiling that I put on it, you go out there and you get 5 wins or 6 wins in the Big 12 year one, I think that's an incredible job. And a lot of these guys fit Eric Morris's system. I think it's a plug and play type of system, and I think they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to be great. I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to be okay.
Well, and there's no better time than like right now to turn it around. To your point on Mestamaker, by the way, I at least hope he carries that mentality of being the underdog with him, because I think that suits him well in his style of play. And he's also a little bit of a victim too, because when he was set to take over the reins at his high school, they had a 4 or 5-star kid move in. There was a quarterback in there and kind of went through a quarterback battle. So a little bit of victim of circumstance there, but I mean, the kid has turned into something rather incredible. And I for one, I hate the fact that the portal window is going to close, Zach, and then now we got to wait like 6 months. Like, all we can do is just sit here and speculate and talk about stuff, and we won't get real answers until later on, man.
Yeah, what's so weird about this, I think I like this portal window. It's not closed yet. We still got 12 days-ish, or is it something like that? You still have, or is it 8 days? Excuse me. You have 8 days left that you can enter the portal, and that's one thing that I've heard a lot here is like, oh my God, you only have 8 more days to add 40 players out of the portal. Well, you have 8 days to enter the portal. I think they'll add kids all the way up to spring football. What's really, really interesting, and I'll be curious to know if he changes this, open practices. in Stillwater. That's it. What's so weird, and I said this when Mike was fired. I said it throughout the fall. I'm not foolish enough to think that Mike Gundy was going to be at Oklahoma State for another 20 or 30 years. I thought Mike had another 3, 4, 5 years left in him, and he just kind of ride off into the sunset. But with how abrupt it was, it's been insane. But from the day Eric Morris was hired until right now, it's not better than what Mike Gundy has done. It's just so drastically different. It's a 180. I mean, not that everything's transparent, but you have a staff that previously hated social media. They were never really on social media. They'd post like a daily thing, like, all right, we're up and at it. Like, let's, we're grinding today, whatever. You have a staff now. I don't know if you've been following it. You have a staff that is posting like what people consider AI slop. Whenever you land a commitment, you're having AI videos put out there. They're posting memes and they're posting GIFs, and it's refreshing in a sense. And then Eric Morris, practices are going to be open. I can't imagine every day, all 2.5 hours, but you're going to have access. You're going to get to, I'm not going to go into spring football in April and say, okay, I just saw Drew Mestemaker throw a 75-yard touchdown pass. That's what I'm going to see in August. But the big narrative this past year was, okay, Zane Flores is neck and neck with Hoss Haney. And in August, all of a sudden, Hoss maybe stepped up just a little bit, and he took the starting job away from Zane Flores. Jeremy, you saw it. There was literally no comparison between Hoss Haney and Zane Flores. I'm not saying that we're going to have a clarification in the spring that Drew Mestemaker is the guy, that he is the 4,000+ yard passer that we all saw at North Texas, that he's slinging it around. But we're going to be able to watch it. We're going to be able to see it. We're going to watch guys like Quinton Hammons, guys like Miles Coleman. We're going to be able to see the new guys that came in today, like a Donovan Green. Donovan Green may be one of the more unknown commodities. Big 4-star tight end out of A&M. He gets injured, doesn't really play, goes to LSU, has two catches at LSU in 1 year for 40 yards, and that's it. So you've got a big 6'4", 6'5" tight end. You're going to have big offensive linemen. We're going to be able to form our own opinions about what this team could be, and I think that's a lot safer than trying to just assume, he's going to be a 4,500-yard passer like he was at North Texas.
No doubt. It's a different world, man, with bright eyes and different lenses on everything. I can't wait to see how it all turns out. Zach, I appreciate you, man. Keep up the great work at Pokes Report. It's honestly one of the first places I go in the morning when I think of Oklahoma State stuff, just trying to look on it. Not only do you do a great job, but Robert, everyone that's involved in it, man, thank you so much for the minutes this afternoon. Kind of give us a little preview, an idea of what the portal looks like for Oklahoma State, man. And we'll have to do this again soon. Absolutely. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you then. All right, that's Zachary Lancaster joining us here on Oklahoma's Own Sports. Hit that like and subscribe button, please. Will you? It makes all of our bosses very happy when you do that here at Griffin Media, and we'll see you next time with another OSU update.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's Own digital studio stream. Stay with News on 6 online and on television anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.